Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're joining us from. And welcome to the Resilience series on Inspiring Conversations. My name is Dolapo Olufumilayo, and our second guest today is Detola Amure. And we will be discussing the topic How I Bounced Back After the Loss of My Child. Detola Amure is a productivity and transformational coach, passionate about helping women, especially mothers, discover their purpose so they can birth dreams confidently. She's widely known to activate women into purpose and significance. She's the founder of Super Working Mom, a global organization that aims to help overwhelmed Christian mothers maximize their time so they can manifest their God given dreams. Detola is blessed to be multidimensional. She's a member of the John Maxwell team, an advanced certified grief recovery specialist, an international speaker, a freelance writer, host of the Birth Your Dreams with Detola YouTube show, co-host of When Life Stops podcast, and author of 4 books. Detola facilitates 2 retreats yearly, a prayer retreat and a goal-setting retreat to help women with strategic planning. Detola enjoys reading, writing, traveling, and recording videos. She is married with 4 children under 11, and one of them lives in heaven. Viewers, kindly connect, engage, and network in the chat box and also ask your questions. Thank you for joining us today, Detola. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I mean, you've shared a lot already in my bio. So I think the only thing I'll add to that is that I am on a journey of growth. I love life. I love people. I love to help others get into their place of significance. And yeah, I just love life.
Thank you so much for that. So, how were you able to explain to your children that they had lost their sibling? Or rather, can you take us on the journey of what happened?
Yeah. Okay. So and I'll try and keep it short. What happened was I had a set of twins in May 2018, and it was a joyful surprise addition to our family. And at the time, I already had 2 children, a girl and a boy, and then the twins came. And in December, my baby boy, actually both the twins, so I had a boy and a girl twins, they had just turned 7 months. They were both down with a cold. Um, but my boy was struggling more. We took him to the hospital. The doctor said, "Oh, it's fine. It's nothing. Just run a bath for him anytime he's a bit, snotty and whatnot." A week later, he was a bit poorly. We went to church. It was a decision between going to church and going to the hospital. We decided to go to church. Came back. He took a nap. Um, I tried to wake him up and he wasn't breathing. I tried to do CPR on him. My husband was calling the ambulance. And it was just a very chaotic and traumatic day. Eventually, the ambulance came, took him to the hospital, and then a few hours later, they pronounced him dead. So that is the short version of the story.
I'm sure that must have been a very traumatic experience for you, especially being a mother. How were you able to explain to your children that they had lost their sibling? And how were you able to care for them while grieving the loss of this precious gift?
So I think, and it's interesting, when bad things happen or traumatic things happen, there's always something good in the midst of all of that, even though at the time you might not see it then. So I think the good thing was we were all together when we were trying to resuscitate him. The kids were there. I mean, obviously that was traumatic for them, but they kind of saw what was happening. And so even though we didn't tell them immediately, we took a few days for us to eventually, because they kept going, "Where's Moraki, or why isn't he back home?" And we're like, "Oh, he's still in the hospital." But eventually we told the kids, and we had to, I had to do some research on knowing how to tell a child that they've lost a sibling or a family member. And so instead of using words like, "Oh, your brother has gone to heaven," you literally have to use the word "your brother has died," which was really hard to say. But we had to tell them, my husband and I, and we all cried. It was really painful for them. But what helped was um, making the decision to take them to the funeral. So at the time, my daughter was, how old was she? 2 years ago, she was 9. My son was 5. And so we took them to the funeral just so they were involved in the process. Okay. So that way, as they were asking their questions, we were answering them. As per helping them or taking care of them while I was also grieving, it was really hard, but I knew that we had to grieve together, right? And so one of the things I did to help my children was because they were asking lots of questions, especially my son. Oh my goodness, where is Caleb? Okay, he's in heaven. What's heaven like? And I am more of an ethical. I'm trying to look for what's the English word for ethical now. Someone who loves to read and all of those things. So I went looking for books. I'm like, okay, if I don't know the answers, I better start looking for answers. And so I found this book by Randy Elcon on heaven for kids. He actually has an adult version on heaven, but then he did one for kids. So we read the book together on what heaven is like. And I quite, we were able to do that together. And a lot of their questions were being answered by us reading the book together. And I even got to know a bit more about heaven. I mean, growing up, all we knew about heaven was the streets of, they had streets of gold and the angels were singing all day long. That's all I knew about heaven, in that sense. But by reading this book, he broke it down for all of us. And so now they know that their brother is safe in heaven and that one day we'll go and meet him there. So that was one thing that really helped.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that painful yet inspiring story. Like, you didn't leave your children to themselves to wonder. You carry them along through the grieving process. So you all grieved together as a family. So not only were you grieving the loss of your own child, your children were also grieving the loss of their brother, of their sibling, right? And carrying them along, you were able to be vulnerable, you were able to be bare with each other, and you were basically able to hold each other accountable. Also, as a mother, you also went to look for resources, right, to help you explain better to them, even though you were also, going through your own painful grieving. But I'm sure, like, while you were reading the book, it helped you also cope better. Now, my next question for you is, how did the loss affect your relationship with your spouse? We know that, when a loss of a child happens, right, one of the major things that happen is the disintegration of the family if there is no strong core or strong foundation. How did this loss affect the relationship with your spouse?
So I would say it actually helps our relationship. We became closer, interestingly, and I think that also had to do with us not judging each other by the way we were both grieving, because research has shown that most divorce that happens after a loss of a child is usually because of the judgment of how each person, you're judging how the other person is grieving. And so the first thing, almost immediately, we both had to verbally tell each other that this is not your fault, right? Because my husband was thinking it was his fault because he was the one that put him down to have his nap. And so he thought maybe he didn't put him right. And I was feeling bad that, maybe we should have gone to the hospital. Maybe I should have insisted that we go to the hospital. So one of the first things we did was to verbally tell each other that it was neither our fault. So I told him, this is not your fault. He said to me, this is not your fault. So I think that foundation really helped us know that neither of us blamed each other for the death of our son. And I made a conscious effort not to judge how he was grieving. And he also didn't judge how I was grieving. I was more of the wailing and obvious griever. He just wanted to stay, he just wanted to contain his grief. And so even though I, went out looking for counseling and help, he's like, no, I'm not ready for that. And I've let him be. But I've realized that the death of our son has actually brought us closer, things that I wouldn't share before, I will talk about it now. So yes, I would say that it's actually brought us closer. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for that honesty. Really, you're being honest, saying that the both of you verbally expressing to each other that you do not judge each other, right? And you're not judging how one person grieves, right? You've accepted, like, what, this loss has happened. Nobody is at fault here, So thank you so much for that. Now, there's no manual on how to show support for a grieving family or friend. What role did your family and friends play during this crucial time in your life?
Yeah. So most of my family don't live in the UK. So it was from that standpoint, it was more phone calls, although not as much as I would have loved. But I guess it's also a cultural thing of how do I put it now? How in our culture, when a child dies, it's a very uncomfortable topic. So, everyone's like not talking about it. And I would have preferred that, my family called me more. I mean, and I say that with grace. I don't say that with any form of annoyance or bitterness. I just saw it as more of a cultural thing. Obviously, they were there. My parents supported us, his parents as well. I mean, they called as much as they could. Um, and then my brother lives in the UK. He was also supportive with his wife, and I'm grateful for them. In terms of friends, a number of my friends rose up, wow, to the occasion. They rallied around me, practical help. My Super Working Mom community, I have to give a big shout out to them. They all raised money to get me a nanny, because interestingly, I was looking for a nanny when I had the twins, but for some reason I couldn't find one. But as soon as that happened, all they asked me was, what are my requirements? They all raised money and they got me a nanny for about 6 months or so. And I was like, wow, I had loads of food. I had to buy an extra freezer. It was just, everyone was just turning up. And I'm so grateful that I didn't have to. I mean, there were occasions where some people will call and say, oh, let me know when you need help. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm not calling you because I don't even know the help I need. But I'm grateful for the friends who didn't wait for me to ask, who didn't wait for me to call them to say, can I come get the kids so that you and hubby can just be by yourselves during this weekend? I'll take them for the weekend. Friends were just turning up with practical support. So, and I'm really grateful. My church family, Chapel of Life, they were really amazing. In fact, they took care of the funeral, every single thing. The only appointment we had to go for was the initial stage, and that was traumatic. Going to talk about, oh, what should he wear? What coffin do you want? But after that really traumatic interview, they just took over everything, and my husband and I didn't have to be so involved in the nitty-gritty of the funeral. And I'm so grateful for my church family, my friends, and my family, and my family as well. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. So now my next question is, after this traumatic experience happened, what kind of resilient spirit, right? What kind of resilient spirit did you develop, right? How has this helped you? How has this pushed you? How has this painful event shaped your life?
Mm. Wow. So one thing that I've started saying recently is this is Detola 2.0 that you're seeing. The Detola you knew before her baby died no longer exists. So it's either you take me or you leave me the way I am, because God is, he's taking this caterpillar, this larva, and turning me into a beautiful butterfly. And even though it's been a very, very interesting and painful journey, it's been beautiful in some ways. I'm learning to know myself more. I've become more introspective. I've become more discerning. I am learning to use this pain and not let it go to waste. I'm using this to help others as well who have gone through something similar, and not just the death of a child, but even a loss of whatever it is. Because grief, when people hear the word grief, they think, oh, it means somebody has died. No, grief is the normal and natural reaction to any type of loss. So I've been able to take my pain and use that to help others. I've become more empathetic, kinder, I would say, and stronger, definitely stronger, and low tolerance for nonsense. Yeah. So I think it's made me stronger. It has made me stronger. Yeah.
Wow, it's funny you say that because it's almost like a reawakening, a light
Yes.
bulb,
Yeah.
right, that went off. And it's
Yeah.
almost like you become bolder.
Yeah.
You become bolder, you become more assertive, right?
Yes.
And now you are able to ask what you want,
Yep.
right? Because now you realize that I don't get a do-over. In this life, it's one life to live. I don't get a do-over.
Exactly.
And I have to live
Exactly.
my best life now. And because you have to live your
Yes.
best life now, it's also forcing you, to make certain choices, certain decisions.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you is, with your children, how has this changed them? I'm sure this has changed them. I mean, the grieving, I mean, that doesn't end, right?
Mm.
There are times when you go into the room and your son is not there, and they are
Yeah.
also aware that
Yeah.
their brother is not there. How has this brought you together as a family?
Mm.
And every year, right?
Yeah.
During the birthdays, during special occasions, how has
Yeah.
this helped your children?
Yeah. So yeah, I think my children to have had to grown older quickly in some ways. Grief, grief changes you. It changes you completely, you know. But one thing I will say is they talk about their brother every single day. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that he had older siblings, as opposed to if he was the first, and then you were just hearing stories about this brother you had that you never knew. So they knew him for 7 months. And every day, even when we're doing a quiet time and we're praying, and you don't mention Morakio's name, my son is like, we haven't prayed for Morakio. I'm like, Morakio is in heaven. We are the ones that need the prayers. He's totally fine. But my son is like, no, so they talk about him every day, like he's still very much part of our lives. On the twins' birthday, sometimes my daughter will say, oh, so last when my daughter turned when she turned 2 in May, my older daughter was like, oh, she wanted to go to his um what do you call it now?
His grave site, the grave
His
site.
the grave, yeah. So we went together, and one time we all went together. So we do things. Anytime they say they want to go, well, my older son hasn't said that yet, but with my daughter, sometimes she'll say, oh, I would like to go to his graveside, and we'll go, or something, because it's not far from the house. If we're passing by, like, they'll say, oh, buy Caleb's body, because they kind of understand that his spirit is in heaven. So they'll
Mhm.
say, oh, buy Caleb's body, and that's his other name, Caleb or Morakio. So it's been an interesting ride for all of us, and I would say that they have grown as well. And now they have this awareness that this is not the end. That, sometimes my older son will say, Mommy, when are we going to the new heaven and the new earth? I'm like, not yet. So they already get the concept that this earth isn't our home. Yeah.
That's great. Viewers, please engage, connect, send in your questions using the chat box. So, a mother doesn't really get over the loss of her child. However,
Mm,
you learn to live with the loss and it adds meaning to your life, right?
yeah.
How has the loss of your child made you rethink your priorities and the meaning of life, which
Mm.
seemed impossible then? How have you rediscovered purpose?
Wow, that's a loaded question. So, I mean, before my son died, I was already on this purpose journey. Like you said in my bio, I was helping women find their purpose, right, and live a purpose-driven life. So I already knew about living a purpose-driven life. But when my son died, everything stopped for me. Like, I had to re-examine what I thought I knew. Even my faith, I had to say, wait, do I even really know what this faith thing is about? So I felt like I went back to ground zero to start again, to really understand what this whole life is about. So one of the things I did, because like everything stopped, my business, I had to go on pause. I couldn't think, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't do anything. It was I felt like I was in this hole that I wouldn't come out of. I felt like this darkness around me. But I also knew quickly that I needed to get out of the dark, that I needed to do something to get out of that dark state that I was in. So obviously, I mean, I was angry at God at the time, because I just felt, why would you let this happen to me? Because I put every blame at God's doorstep. In my head, I'm like, this has nothing to do with with Satan. Satan didn't take my baby. God allowed it. Why did you allow it? I just couldn't get that. But it was, I mean, who else will you run to? It's only God I would run to. And I would throw tantrums and he would hold me. I would sense him holding me. So from a spiritual standpoint, I started rereading my Bible, started looking at things around eternity and all of those things. And emotionally, I knew that I needed to heal. Most people focus on spiritual healing, which is great. But think about it. If you had surgery, right, and your spirit man is fine, you still have to go through the process of healing from, an accident or a surgery, all of those things. So emotionally, I also knew I needed to heal. And that was what led me to the grief recovery program. And I got certified. And that was where I got my emotional healing from. It just, I don't know how to describe it in words, but I got healing. My heart was that was broken, was healed and was better. And then when that happened, all of a sudden my creativity came back. I was able to flow again. Unlike before, where I couldn't even, as in nothing was going nothing was going through my mind. I couldn't think clearly. I couldn't do anything creative. I couldn't really, in fact, I had to, stop seeing one-to-one clients because I'm like, how am I going to help you if I am a mess? But after I got my healing, spiritually and emotionally, it was like the creativity tap just turned back on. And then I now realize there's actually a connection between our productivity and grief. So you might have lost a job or lost your marriage or whatever, and you find out that you are not productive. You're not able to live the life God called you to live. But you don't realize that you're grieving. You don't realize that there's something off. And I now began to see the connection when I started coaching my, women again. And so when women came to me this time around, I saw it clearly as they began to say, oh, I'm trying to do this. I have all these goals. I have all these big dreams, but I just don't know what to do. And then I now start asking some other questions and find out that, oh, they're grieving something. Either they moved house or they moved to a new country, or maybe they went through a divorce and they had not dealt with it. And so now we kind of deal with that first before we even start talking about goals and career, changing career and all of those things. So back to the main question. Again, I had to start from point zero, go back to God to show me, okay, it looks like a new purpose, because that's when I became an advanced grief recovery specialist. The word grief was not in my dictionary. It was as in grief, where, how. But when this happened, new words began to show up in my vocabulary, grief, loss, emotional loss, all of those things. And it was as if a new dimension of my purpose now emerged as a result of my loss.
Wow, talk about being multidimensional. Isn't God awesome?
No, right?
He doesn't waste pain, he
Nope.
doesn't waste purpose. And like you said, a new Detola 2.0 showed up. And this new person, right, has now birthed more life, right? You are able to give other women hope from your own experiential journey, right? Because really, you can't give what you don't have. You've gone through this, right? You also sought help.
Yeah.
Not only did you seek help from God, you also went and sought professional help. And then you also took a course. You educated yourself about your emotions, right? And that
Yes.
opened up a new wave of
Yeah.
revelation, of insight. So
Yeah.
when you experience a certain emotion, you can be like, oh, okay, so this is this emotion that I'm feeling. Or and
Yeah.
you actually go back to your past, right?
Yes.
And identify some triggers. And you can be like, oh,
Mm.
this is what this is. And guess what? You are your best self. You're able to
Yeah.
show up as your best self, not only
Yeah.
for yourself, not only for your family, but for the world at large. So we have a question. And the question is, how do you handle prolonged grief? How do you handle prolonged grief?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to try and give a short answer because there's prolonged grief usually happens because we have not dealt with grief, because there's unresolved grief. And unresolved grief is usually of an emotional nature where there's some undelivered emotional communication. Let me explain that. So if someone died, as an example, okay, let me use myself as an example. Obviously, when I had my twins, I had dreams and hopes for them, right? I had the dream that I will see them both grow together. They'll go to school, they'll run around, be toddlers together, all of those things. See them get married and all of, what you think for your children or what you dream for your children. But when he died, the dreams died as well. And so that means there was some undelivered communication, undelivered emotional communication in terms of my dreams and my hopes for him. And so unresolved grief comes when I've not come to terms with those dreams and hopes and expectations. Trying to reach out for my son and seeing that he's not there. Reaching out and saying, ooh, I'm only going to see my daughter grow up, right? So if I don't deal with those emotions, that is where prolonged grief comes in. And guess what? We all go through losses, small losses, big losses. It really doesn't matter. Every loss is unique. And when we don't deal with any type of loss, the grief is accumulated, right? And there's this myth that says time heals all wounds. Time does nothing. Time does nothing for your wounds. If you had a flat tire, right, you wouldn't stand there and say, time is going to fix this tire. You would either call the AA, like we have in the UK, or if you're old school and from Nigeria, you probably go and fix your tire yourself, right? So why would we say time will heal your emotional wounds? It wouldn't. You need to take some actions to recover from your grief. And I know using the word grief and recovery seems like that's not possible. Like, how can you recover from grief? But you can, because recovery simply means feeling better. It means your heart is no longer broken. It means that stabbing pain you used to feel, you no longer feel it anymore. Of course, you'll be sad that your baby isn't here anymore, your marriage disintegrated, you lost that job. You will still be sad. But that experience doesn't control the rest of your life. So prolonged grief, all you need to do is get help. And that's one of the things I do as a grief recovery specialist. I take people through the journey. I teach you how to heal from your pain. Grief is like, when you see, grief is like weeds in the garden of your heart. If you don't tend to those weeds, they keep growing and choking the beautiful plants that you're trying to plant, that you're trying to grow. What grief recovery does is, a grief recovery specialist holds your hand, goes into the garden and helps you to pull out those weeds gently, shows you how to pull them out so that you have a beautiful garden instead of weeds in that garden. And the next time another loss happens, because as long as we're on this earth, trust me, we will have losses. But as long as another loss comes up, you are able to deal with them practically. So with prolonged grief, all you need to do is take some action steps.
Thank you so much. This was such a inspiring, educative session. So basically, deal with your grief, be it small grief, be it large grief. For example, if you lose your job, deal with the emotion that you're feeling. If you lost a friend, deal with the loss of that friendship, right? If there's any kind of emotion, basically deal with that emotion in your life. Thank you so much, Detola, for that. Viewers, please rate the session. All right, please rate the session. Thank you so much, Detola, for this wonderful, inspiring conversation and basically sharing your story with us. Thank you so much. I have learned so much.
Yes.
To our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. At this time, I will be inviting our Titilola Awoyemi for the closing remarks. Please do not hang up yet. You can join the virtual hangout after the closing address, where you have various opportunities to win different prizes for participating. Thank you so much and see you soon.
Wow, wow, wow. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, awesome, highly impactful sessions. Wow, thank you everyone for being here. Looking at everything that we have gone through today, I think we have all gleaned a lot of wisdom. And if you are taking notes like I was, there are a lot of things, I wrote down, a lot of nuggets from our speakers. It starts with you identifying who you are. And the answer to your next level and or the next opportunity. She said, don't say next level opportunity, because opportunity come in different shades. The answer to your next opportunity actually lies within you. You are designed for something great. You have so much in you, and you are designed for a purpose. I know one of our speakers also said, when you're looking for what can I do? How can I become that solution? What is in your hands? Look around you. What is around you? She gave, different example from the Bible, how God used what was already that looks like nothing, or that looks like it was limited, how God used that to bless generations. So I am saying the same thing to you. Be a solution provider. Look inward. It is time to challenge ourselves. We can't come to conferences like this and just go home and remain the same. You have to aspire to become indispensable. Like one of our speakers also said, she said, equip yourself with skills that are like 2 levels above where you want to be. Because then, you don't have to tell people you're ready. They can read it, they can see you. And she said, provide value. What can you do to provide that solution? What can you do? How valuable can you be, to your organization, or to where you are, or to the people around you? Then she also said you can glean, from other people by volunteering. If you don't know what you have to do, it's time to begin to volunteer. Be creative with it. She also said something about, networking. Don't just be there. Network. Intentionally build your network. I know when you talk about family, you talk about community, you talk about people around you. You're looking for people who could actually be like a sponsor, a mentor, or someone you can look up to, a coach, someone that can take you or give you this information, the knowledge that you need from one level to the other. So he said, watch intentionally, put the right people around you. And like I said, this session actually across all sectors of life, no matter where you are, I think there was a wisdom that was given unto us today. And the final thing I wanted to talk about will be, maybe second to the final, the one of it is healing. Allow yourself to heal. We all have similar experiences in life. There is nothing that has happened to you that someone has never experienced before. So don't close the door. Don't shut yourself in. It is time to reach out for help. Talk to people that have gone through the same situation and they came out whole. So that is one of the things in this conference. You have to have the right people. Don't stay in the past. It's time to look forward into your future. If you are in the past, you can't see the future. It's blurry. And your future is always, always waiting for you to happen. So sisters, think generationally. Pick yourself up. It's time to act. The future we're talking about is not far-fetched. So you need to position yourself for that shift today. And the Lord will help you. And I was also listening to someone talking about social media. I know social media is, you have all kind of noise, out there, but you position it in such a way that you can actually use social media to a specific purpose. You can use it to your own advantage. He said you have to be consistent. I heard a lot of that. Consistency, intentionality, clarity, be strategic, position yourself. And quickly, I want to just tell us all the key announcements today. We are going to have a very early start tomorrow. Please get ready. come early. You know, we are on time and we want to keep it to time. So also check your agenda to know your time zone. Look at the time zone you're in so that you don't miss out on anything. Tomorrow is going to be spectacular. Please don't miss it. Our business speech competition happened, and we're going to be announcing the winners tomorrow. Don't miss it. Please be part of it. We also have virtual hangouts in our virtual meeting rooms. So once we're done here, please go to the virtual meeting rooms and hang out with people, network. We have a caliber of people here today. So don't miss out, don't just leave. Connect, connect, connect. It is time to network, and please live your life on purpose. God bless you. Thank you. We're looking forward to another fantastic day tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you. Be part of it. Invite a friend. It's never too late. God bless you. Thank you.